Hey y'all, my name is Yvette and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be recommending some books for the Latinx-A-THON. The Latinx-A-THON is a Latinx lit-based readathon that runs for 10 days from September 15th to September 24th. I am one of the co-hosts and I'll leave my announcement video and all of the readathon information down below in the description. Also down in the description are more recommendations. All of my co-host recommendation videos are going out today, so you're going to want to check out those as well. There's also going to be a playlist of all the previous recommendation videos that the hosts of the Latinx-A-THON have put out for previous years of this readathon, as well as the Latinx booktubers recommend Latinx books that the readathon put together last year. What I'm saying is that there are going to be a ton of recommendations for Latinx books by Latinx book reviewers, so if you're looking for a little help with your TBR or you just want your TBR to grow, that's the place where you're going to want to look. And now onto my recommendations. The first book I want to recommend is Mangoes and Mistletoes by Adriana Herrera. The author of this book is Afro-Dominican and bi, so this would count for the challenges of voices and Latinidad. This is a foodie FF romance following two women who are competing in a holiday baking competition. They are both Dominican and they are paired together to compete as a team. As someone who watches a fair amount of baking competition shows, this book made me very happy. One of the women wants to focus on Dominican flavors while the other one doesn't want to be like shoeboxed by being Dominican and wants to steer away from those flavors, as well as steer away from the feelings she is having for her teammate because she is here to win this competition and does not want any distractions. This is a very cute story. There's that relationship dynamic where one person is very grumpy and the other person is very sunshiny, and there is an only one bed trope, and this is a standalone novella, so this is perfect for a readathon. The next book I want to recommend is In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. The author of this book is queer and Cuban American, so this would count for the challenge of Latinidad. This is a nonfiction memoir about the author's abusive relationship with another woman and about sapphic abusive relationships in general. In this book, Machado takes you through her relationship, getting into it, going through it, and what happened after. It's very raw and vulnerable and explores so many different aspects of abusive sapphic relationships, like her own experiences, but also how like Disney villains are queer coded and how there is this stereotype about sapphic relationships being entirely safe and wholesome. Machado has a distinct writing style that I really love. It can be very dreamlike and weird and atmospheric, and also this book is in second person, so it's like you are experiencing everything in this book, and I think those two combined make for a very interesting reading experience. Another thing about the writing style is that a lot of the chapters are really short, almost like vignettes, and they each take on a different narrative trope, and they're titled The Dream House as blank. So like The Dream House as Noir, The Dream House as Shipwreck, The Dream House as Here Comes the Bride. I know Machado's writing style isn't for everyone, but I feel like it's the kind of thing where if it works for you, then it really works for you. And this is probably going to be my favorite book of 2020, so I don't know if there's any more higher praise than that. I also recommend the audiobook for this one because the author narrates it herself and it's really good. The next book I want to recommend is Lords of the Earth by David Bowles. The author of this one is Chicano and pansexual, so this will count for the challenge of Latinidad, and also Roots because this book does have a little bit of Nahuatl in it. And a note on that is that the main character is Indigenous and Nahuatl is his native language. I don't think that the author is Indigenous, but he is a professor that actually offers courses on Nahuatl, so there's that. This is basically a Mexican kaiju novel. A volcano erupts in Mexico, and from that eruption emerges a giant fire lizard and it's destroying cities. This book mostly follows two scientists who are trying to stop this monster. The first one, his name is Alfonso. He's an indigenous anthropologist and he recognizes this monster as the ancient fireworm that the Aztecs faced and defeated in the past. And then we have Elena, who is a famous scientist, and she's positioned as sort of the head of Mexico's science team who are tasked with defeating this monster. The story really leans into indigenous culture and oral traditions and the importance of preserving indigenous stories because all written accounts of how to destroy this monster were destroyed by colonizers, and now it's a race against time to rediscover this knowledge of how to destroy the monsters and combining that with modern science. So if you are looking for something that's a little more fun to read, this one's a good choice. The next book I want to recommend is The Undocumented Americans by Carlo Conejo Villavicencio. The author is Ecuadorian and queer, so this would count for the challenge of Latinidad. This is a nonfiction about undocumented immigrants, and it's written by one of the first undocumented kids to go to Harvard for undergrad, and then she later went to Yale for graduate school, and this book is amazing. This has, I believe, 6 essays all covering different experiences from undocumented immigrants. You have one about those who cleaned up after Hurricane Sandy, one about first responders to 9/11, one about people being poisoned in Flint, and more stories. What I love about this book is that A lot of media about undocumented immigrants can be either super inspiring or super tragic, and while those stories definitely deserve their places, a lot of times they can be more geared towards a non-Latinx white audience, and this book is definitely not that. Villavicencio is reporting from a community that she's a part of, and she's able to form real intimate relationships with her subjects, and because of that she's able to report these stories with the dignity that they deserve. She writes not only about labor exploitation and how America has this habit of taking immigrant youth only to chew them up and spit them out for the barest hope of the American dream, whatever that is, but she also focuses on the mental health of the undocumented community when there isn't a lot of material on that. So not only is the content of this book great, but the writing is brilliant as well. Villavicencio, she calls this book a book of reported essays and not traditional nonfiction, and for me it read this blend of journalism and reporting with a little bit of memoir, and there were even a couple parts that had a magical realism edge to them. I love this book so deeply. I saw my family in it, and all of the money and attention that went to American Dirt should have gone to this book. If you want to read a book about undocumented immigrants, I highly recommend you read this one. The next book I want to recommend is Everything Inside by Edwidge Danticat. The author of this book is Black and Haitian American, so this would go for the challenges of voices and heritage. This is a collection of 8 short stories about Haitians, Haitian Americans, and Haitian immigrants that, quote, explores the forces that pull us together or drive us apart, sometimes in the same searing instant, which I realize doesn't tell you much about what this book is about. I found this to be an exploration of different human experiences, just regular people with regular problems that are specific to being Haitian, but ordinary problems nonetheless. Like, for example, there's a story about a young woman living with HIV, there's a story about a man arriving in America on a raft and what happens after that, and there's a story about a woman whose ex-husband needs her help to save his new lover from a kidnapping in Haiti. At first I didn't realize how much I like these stories because they're so quiet in their brilliance. There's nothing extraordinary about the people in these stories or the things happening, but I was still super interested in the story. With short stories, sometimes you can leave wanting more, but I felt like each one of these stories stood on their own and felt complete. Each one was so well written, with characters that were full and flawed, that felt like not just characters but people, if that makes any sense. And apparently this author has won a ton of awards, and I could definitely see why after I read this. And finally, the last book I'm recommending today is Efrain Divided by Ernesto Cisneros. I couldn't find confirmation of this author's heritage anywhere, but I do believe he's Mexican American, and this book would count for the Roots Challenge because both Spanish and English are spoken on the page. This is a middle grade contemporary about family separation. The main character is a 12-year-old boy named Efrain, and while he was born in America, his parents are undocumented, and one day his mom doesn't come home and he finds out that she's been deported to Mexico. His dad is trying to figure out a way to get her home, and Efrain is left to take care of his little brother and sister and hold his family together. I thought this book was a good exploration of family separation, not only the trauma of the actual separation, but also the everyday fears that comes with having undocumented family, when any day could be the day that a parent is taken from you. This happens to Efrain, but then he also has to deal with the fear of maybe his dad is going to get taken too, and dealing with the stress of caring for and feeding his younger siblings full-time, all this on top of missing his mother and not knowing if she's going to be able to come back. This book was heartbreaking, but still a little hopeful. I really liked it, and I think others will too. So that is going to be it for this year's recommendation videos. If you are looking for something a little more specific, feel free to ask me in the comments, and make sure to go check out my co-host recommendation videos. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.